My name is Melinda Brown, and I will be giving you a informational speech on DNA evidence. By the end of my speech, you will be informed on how important the collection of the use of DNA evidence is into solving and preventing crimes. DNA evidence is crucial in solving murders, rapes, violent crimes, but most important to public safety.
911, do you need police paramedicals? Maybe both, I'm not sure. There was just someone screaming outside. And what's the address over here?
If you've ever watched the TV show 911, then you may recall that saying by a 911 operator as an indication that a crime has taken place and a criminal investigation is underway. There are several television shows on TV today that are crime-based and focused on solving murders. My favorites to watch are Cops and Investigation ID on the History Channel. I have served on a jury trial for murder recently and was subjected to all the ways that law enforcement collects, examines, and determines DNA evidence and its importance to the crime that has taken place. If you've had a loved one murdered or missing, wouldn't you want to find them or have law enforcement do the best job possible to solve the mystery? We all know someone or have heard of someone who has been murdered. But do we really know the chain of command that needs to take place to ensure the suspect has been caught and punished for the crime they had committed? During my informative speech, I will explain what DNA is, where DNA is collected from, how to collect DNA, and the DNA is stored and used in criminal investigations, and the importance of DNA collection for public safety. Okay, let's get started on the explanation of the importance of DNA to law enforcement public safety by first explaining what DNA is. According to the online Webster Dictionary, the definition of DNA is a long linear polymer found in the nucleus of a cell and formed from nucleotides and shaped like a double helix, associated with the transmission of genetic information. Also stated in the Webster Online Dictionary, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Now that you're aware of the definition of DNA, let's look where it is found. DNA can be collected in several ways, but according to James in 2009, DNA can be collected from skin, hair, blood, or saliva. DNA may also be pulled from clothing or possible weapons from a crime scene. DNA collection has the ability to identify a suspect, place them at the scene, and create an alibi for a suspect. This report is from the National Institution for Justice, in short, NIJ. It is used by law enforcement to solve current crimes and cold cases. Now that we know where to find DNA samples, let's move on to the importance of collecting DNA properly and the ways DNA are stored for law enforcement use to convict or exonerate a criminal. As stated in the NIJ article, it is important that DNA is collected, but most important that it is collected properly for the use of law enforcement against criminals. The proper way to collect DNA is to wear gloves, use clean, uncontaminated instruments, and do not touch your face, nose, or mouth during the collection process. Once collected, place a sample in a dry, sterile evidence bag. If evidence is collected properly, according to Randy James, DNA will be 99% accurate. Once the DNA is collected, there are several ways to test the DNA to see if there is enough evidence to convict or place an unknown criminal at the scene of a crime. Depending on the size of the sample determines on how it will be tested. There are 3 tests for DNA profiling, which are polymerase chain reaction, or known as PCR analysis. It is used in extremely small samples of DNA. It has the ability to copy DNA millions of times. The next is short tandem repeat, short for STR analysis. It is variable and used for forensic testing. They study the 13 loci, and if all 13 match, then they have their suspect. Another test used is the mitochondrial DNA analysis, and with this test, it is usually performed on old evidence collected from hair shaft, bones, or teeth. The most helpful for cold case files and other evidence collected when it's no longer usable. Once a DNA sample is collected, it is examined against a known sample to see if it is a match. Let's recap. First, you have a crime scene. Then you will collect the evidence from a crime scene. Once the evidence is collected, it will be analyzed to see if there is a match. Now that we are aware of the proper collection and test for DNA, let's look at what happens next and how DNA evidence is stored and used. Once DNA is collected and analyzed, it is stored in a computer software program known as the Convicted Offender DNA Index System, known as COIDS. A COIDS program is operated by local, state, and national databases according to the NIG. COIDS is stored in two different ways, which are criminal and missing persons. The collections can be stored for a number of years in the computer program, and tests can be run either to find a missing person or to convict or exonerate a criminal. Also, law enforcement can use the CODIS system to find a suspect and get a warrant based on their DNA profile before the suspect even knows that he is a suspect. The advancements in DNA collection have been crucial in not only solving current crimes, but also cold case files. After learning the importance of DNA collecting, analysis, and storage, you are more informed on how the advancement of DNA evidence is important to law enforcement and public safety in solving crimes and keeping the public safe. The most important evidence in a crime can be the collection and the use of DNA to help law enforcement convict or exonerate criminals, and also to aid in the reoccurrence of repeat offenders. Now that you have heard all the information on the importance of the DNA collection and its use, will this affect your thoughts of how hard law enforcement works to keep us safe, to put criminals away for their offenses? Be sure to respect your law enforcement and thank them for the tough job that they do.